Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Just a reminder to everybody, the views expressed on this podcast are solely the opinions of the people presenting and do not reflect the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association.
And welcome back, everybody. Episode 32. I am back. I did know I got some messages saying that they missed me last week. I did miss everybody, but I really enjoyed my time away with 3 days of heavy metal and got my new tattoo, watched my daughter crowd surf. It was fun, and I'm still recovering, by the way. So, quick little announcement. I just want to let everybody know that Mike has stepped away from the podcast. Personal reasons. There's no hard feelings amongst any of us. We wish him the best of luck, and, he can pop in and say hi to us and chat once in a while. So, I just want to put it out there if y'all wondering, where's Mike? Yeah, he's no longer with us at this time. But on that note, we still have everybody else. We've got Bill, James, and Josh tonight. How was your week, Josh?
Not too bad. Same old, same old. Well, I did end up calling out Wednesday because I think Monday, the extreme heat Monday into Tuesday took me for a loop. Monday I ended up at the end of the day with a nasty migraine, and the nausea got so bad I didn't quite make it home before I needed to grab a trash bag. Tuesday I was fine, but later in the evening I was still nauseous, starting to get a little nauseous. So I figured I'd probably better stay home on Wednesday, and I'm off Thursdays anyway for appointments. So I had the 2 days to relax in the house, in the air conditioning, and recoup.
Yes.
And this week's going to be a short week too. Again, have the appointments Thursday, and then we're supposed to go away to a convention next weekend. So I had already requested Friday, Saturday off a long time ago. So that'll be a nice change of pace.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. People, heat out there is no joke. That is for sure. Yeah, and James, how was your week?
Since I became regular and without any question, I worked my NS day. So I worked 6 days last week, which unfortunately wasn't comfortable for me. I'm not like working Saturdays. I like having that day to relax from working the route all week. I know, some RCAs work 7 days a week. I know some regular carriers are on H routes now that used to be on Ks and things like that. But you get so used to the pattern that you get up on a Saturday and go to work, and it's like there's absolutely no traffic out there. Nobody's going to their 8 to 5 jobs when you're going to your work. Did all right. Did get into a little bit of a spat with my supervisor that day because he's like, we're going to hold these flats over for Monday. I'm like, are you insane? You're wanting to hold flats over for one of the heaviest mail days of the week? No, we're going to throw that stuff. We're going to get it out. And everybody was back before 4. So it's like, it's no big real deal that we got it all out. So kind of just made sure that happened at my office. But other than that, because of that, I'm going to use that X day as one of the days I go to National Convention. So now I get to keep an annual day for something other than union activities.
Nice. Bill, how was your week, sweetheart?
Oh, I was forced in yesterday, so I missed my grandpop day.
Oh.
Yeah, that bummed me out. But Grandma liked it because since I wasn't around, the grandbaby had her all day long. But a typical week in downtown Westchester, people calling out, subs not showing up. delayed mail. Oh, they want you out in 3 hours, but they're not done the parcels to 10:15. Yeah, the same old bullshit. And like James says, oh, they want to hold the mail to Monday. I'm sorry, are you delaying mail? Is that what you're doing? Let me get this down in writing, please. It's just funny how they manipulate the rules and situations to their benefit, and it's not to anybody's benefit, except for theirs. Making excuses because they fudge reports that they send up every day. They lie their asses off on their telecoms, and I just sit there and shake my head, and it's like, oh God, we have a service talk today again. We got all 6 scans. No, folks, there's a hell of a lot more than 6 scans in there. But that's all they're worried about is getting those 6 scans, staying off the reports. So other than that, like the rest of the country, hot, hazy, humid, air quality's poor, and just take the breaks. Don't end up like Josh getting sick. Hydrate and take your breaks, folks.
Yeah, when
Josh isn't the only one.
I got back.
Josh isn't the only one. I got it last year. I had it last year. I was down for 3 days because of it. We did that episode last week about heat. So if you guys want to go back and listen to that, there's a lot of good tips in there to survive the heat if you want to listen to that.
I got back in the office Tuesday, and I literally just had my aux route Tuesday through Friday, with the exception of running some packages Tuesday and Wednesday for the overflow. Whoever's bright idea was to hold 7 pallets of Amazon back on Monday for Tuesday when another 13 came in on Tuesday. This is for 6 routes and aux and 3 city routes, 20 pallets of Amazon on Tuesday. It was not pretty. My primary route ended up running 2 second trips. This is a 93-mile POV route. He racked up because he had a whole nother pallet there, and he asked her, do you want me to wait? She said, oh, we won't be able to break it down until after you leave. Well, then she broke it down and scanned it to be out that day. He racked up 116 miles in second trip.
Ooh.
It's not a second trip. It's straight time.
Yeah. Wow.
The union has actually spoken on that and said that if it's a second trip, if you've already organized the parcels and have them ready to go for the route. And if it's not organized, it needs to be straight time, plus mileage for EMA.
Which I think on this matter, he actually came out to the benefit with the better pay on the second trip.
Carrier discretion.
Carrier discretion at 3 minutes a mile at 116 miles plus the EMA. Yeah, that was a nice, pretty day for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I took packages for the 47K route, and they're actually starting to finally let him take second trips now. He's been fighting that one. She's like, oh, we can drop him off at the RMPO. He's like, that's not a true second trip. I have to come back, complete my end of shift duties, and then take a second trip out from the main office where my case is at. So, other than that, then I just had my aux route, and of course I ran a double yesterday. And then had to drive almost 4 hours down to my parents' house, drop off the cooler I borrowed, and pick up some stuff that was in the freezer that my boyfriend left behind. Then I had to pick him up at the airport I got there about just shy of midnight. Drove the 3.5 hours home. Got home at 3:30 this morning, and then I had to be 2 hours away today at noon for local officer training. And I got home about 6:30 this evening. So it's been interesting. That might be a little punchy. I apologize. Not really, but yeah.
Officer training on Sundays?
Yeah, new local officer training.
See, we had that on Sunday, but it was at the convention.
Yeah, our state refuses to do them at conventions anymore. They may do them like at a booster, but they won't do them at convention.
It's funny. Last year was the first time they did it, and the first time they've had officer training, local officer training, I should say, in a long time. Long before
for me, it was really, it was just kind of review because I have been a local officer in my previous county unit before I transferred before. So it was just kind of review and catch up if there was anything new I needed to know or not. But yeah, And she brought pizza in. I'm like, ooh, cool, breakfast. Just because, I've been 700 miles in 24 hours. Yeah, it's been one of those weekends for me.
Yeah, James, it's funny you were saying that your supervisor was saying he wanted to hold flats until Monday.
Yeah.
At my station, we've always been told Saturday is cleanup day. Everything, obviously business closed, stays in in the case of the tubs, wherever you stage it, but they got to work and everything's got to be sorted on Saturday, on Saturdays for whatever was residual during the week. So you go into Monday clean.
Yeah, going to Monday with empty cases.
Yeah, that was like, hey, we've got no pre-sorted bundles today. This was Saturday. And I was like, what? Really? Yeah, no, once they got to the bottom of the APC, underneath all the packages, that's where they found the pre-sorted bundles. I'm like, yeah, that's what
I hate when they do that.
happens. Yeah, me too. But,
And this new
And do they end
machinable,
up
non-machinable sorting doesn't help things either.
no, it does not.
in your the bottom of your gurney?
No. The clerk pulled them off and put them in the tubs were on the rack, sorted them out. They did not go in
Okay.
the parcel hampers.
Yeah, when they started doing that again in my station, they started putting them in toss them in the bundles into the gurneys. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because and we're mostly city in my office
Mm-hmm.
or in my station. So now they case all their mail, all their residual and all that stuff, and then load up and grab their gurneys and roll them out to the truck and load the truck on street time. And now they have all these bundles so that I management put a stop to that real quick because now they either are being held over for the next day or they have to come back in and recase
So,
to organize all the depending on how many bundles they have.
yeah. So we put a little call out to everybody to see what people wanted us to discuss tonight. Go
The
look
answer
at
is 42.
that.
I thought it was 27. I thought it was 27.
Nope, 42.
Jeez.
Unless you're talking
Always
about
getting
the
stuff.
unless you're talking about the number of ice cubes put in your glass for soda, then it's 3. It's halfway between 4 and 2. 2's not enough to make it cold, but 4 makes it too watered down. At least that's what my wife told me.
So, this kind of touches on what you guys talked about last week a little bit with the heat. I did go ahead and listen one day this week while I was out on the route. I tried to listen in Sunday, but when I've got heavy metal playing up on the stage, I can't really listen too much. So, yeah, I
We
tried.
said hi when you popped in.
Yeah, I tried. I almost thought about trying to hop in, but you guys would never heard me. It would all have been the band. So,
Music.
yeah.
And we would have been in a copyright strike situation.
Exactly. And my cell service went in and out the whole time I was there anyways, so which was fine. Why the post office doesn't supply water during hot summer days?
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one because I have been seeing pictures of
OSHA ruling. Wasn't there an OSHA ruling on that a few years back?
The 90-degree rule?
Is that what it is? At 90 degrees or higher, they're supposed to supply
Right.
hydration?
Now, you'll forgive me because I'm kind of old school. And if you know it's going to be a hot day, pack plenty of water, pack Gatorade, Pedialyte, take care of yourself. Don't depend on others to take care of you.
I always
But
look.
that's just me.
I always look at the forecast for the next day, and if I have to throw 2-3 bottles in the freezer of water, that way they're frozen, so I have them the next day. And yes, I'm a woman, and I get hot, and I'll put one of those frozen bottles right between the sisters. And that does help you cool you down, by the way. I've done it with ice packs. I'll do it with a bottle of water. I did that at the festival. I had an ice cold bottle of water right between them. Hey, it works. Cooling towels work.
Funny. Monday, I had one of my ice packs on my back.
Get the mic out of your mouth. Yeah, that one's, I've seen pictures lately all over the social media about hydration stations and celebrating. My first office, my management was awesome. They always had a case of water in the fridge in the break room, and sometimes they had a half a case of water in the freezer portion. And it was always a help yourself. Management where I'm at now, yeah, good luck.
The thing for
They
me,
order pallets of water at my station,
And an
but
ice
they're like,
machine.
no, we don't have an ice machine. We do have a one of them coolers, with the big 5 gallon jug of water.
Mm-hmm.
so here's my opinion on this, and
But
it's not going to be the opinion of anybody else, but I have not worked a single job that provided full refreshments and anything else for their employees, whether it was working inside, outside, or any of that stuff. They expected you to provide all that stuff. And I definitely wasn't making as much money there as I am here at the Postal Service. On that note, they know they're providing equipment that can kill us with the heat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the track record of management overall, I'm not talking about the good managers that a lot of us have. I'm talking about management, especially higher up management. They are looking at numbers on a spreadsheet and they don't care what it means to your body. You are not a person to those number crunchers. And if they are spending money on buying bottled water to take care of carriers, that's an expense that the number crunchers are going to complain about. And the managers that don't want to listen to the number crunchers complain about how they're spending money on bottled water are not going to buy bottled water for the carriers. On the flip side, you also know when you buy your own what it is. You know where it came from, you know who's handled it, you know what's been around it, and everything. So you're a lot safer if you bring your own and take care of yourself. You are
right.
responsible for yourself. And as they say here on this podcast, you are the responsible for getting yourself home at the end of the day to your family.
We do have a water cooler with the 5 gallon jugs that they put on top that you can fill your own container with. They
Mm.
do buy pallets of water, like the cases of water, of the bottled water, but they are saying that's not supposed to, you're supposed to be supplying your own. This is to offset, what they have in the office. They used to be good about putting one case in the freezer, one case in the fridge, but whoever was doing it stopped doing it because they were the only person doing it. Like someone would grab the last one, they wouldn't go grab another case of water and put it and replenish it.
I will say,
Um,
I'm going to add to this, especially about the cold water. If you are extremely hot and overheated, do not chug ice cold
no,
water.
sip it.
Small sips because it will actually send your body into shock. It can make you sicker.
And it can stop your heart.
Yes. So yeah, that's just something to think about when it's hot out. I mean, I like putting that ice cold bottle of water on the back of my neck. I, I cool off the girls with it if I have to. Small sips. But yeah, do not chug ice cold water. That's not
Yeah.
never a good thing.
The places you
And
want to
you're
put
better
cold
off
items,
with
the places you want to put cold items, the back of the neck, your armpits,
inside
between
of the
your
wrist.
legs in the crotch area. I know it seems weird, but there are two major blood vessels that run down in between your thighs. And you put that cold piece next to that, it cools the blood because that artery's right there to cool. And then you also can put a cool item either on your back or your chest because your core is the biggest heat producer of your body. And that's the part you want to cool off the most.
And also the inside of your
The
wrist as
inside of
well.
your wrist.
Yeah, the inside of your
The only
wrists
thing,
are another place. But these are the
and
biggest cooling areas.
the funny thing is, on Monday, I was hydrating. I did at some point take one of my ice packs and put it on my back, and just slowly, as I shifted and rocked, it would work its way from the top down to the bottom of my back to where it was sitting in the seat, and then I would pick it up and put it back into the top again, and it would slowly work down. And then at one point, did have it between my legs, I still got sick. But we were in a code red air quality. It was like 96 degrees out with a
You
heat
smoke.
index over 100. I
You smoke.
smoke.
Yep. All that contributes to it.
Mm-hmm.
People have mixed feelings on running that fan in the LLV because all you're doing is blowing the hot air on you. But let me tell you, I'd rather have that fan on with it moving the air than it sitting stagnant in there.
I also roll down the other window part way.
Yep.
That way I can get it across.
That second window, the window across from me on the left side is open. I usually open that.
Do not roll it down all the way, folks, because you take a too sharp of a turn and your mail goes out the window. I usually roll mine not quite halfway down.
I roll mine so it's like just above whatever I have up front.
Yep.
So even if it shifts, it can't fly out the window. I learned that once. Made the mistake once. Luckily, I was in a neighborhood driving in where my condos are, where I have to drive around to deliver packages. So I was stopping, I turned the corner. I was stopping at the third house, and it kind of shifted and rolled, tumbled out. It was a heavier box, a top heavy box. So when I was dismounting anyway, I could run around the other side and grab it, put it back in.
This is a good one. I would like to hear about how you actually get management to stop people working off the clock. I have tried everything and it persists in my office daily. Talking to management, grievances, writing into national for years, nothing works. I know it is the reason that rec standards are unattainable for some things. We will get cut even further in the future. How can we stop it? And Bill, they already said file, file, file. They've been filing.
Well, after you file, and then you file again, and then you get a hold of the National Labor Relations Board and you file a complaint with them because of the fact that they govern over the work rules. And the work rules say if you're not on the clock, you're not covered. If you're hurt off the clock, no OWCP. And if management tries to cover their asses by falsifying your times, they're in trouble. So, I go, this is me because I'm a very straightforward person. I go up to the person and explain to them why they shouldn't be working off the clock. And they give me some lame excuse and I'll say, well, that's fine. I said, thank you. And they'll say, why? And I said, because you just gave me $100 and I file a grievance for the previous grievances I had filed and settled for $100 per carrier in the office for one individual working off the clock. Management does not like me at all. But guess what, folks? You're harming yourself because you're not getting paid for what you're doing. You're harming yourself because you're putting yourself in jeopardy in regards to being injured off the clock. You're hurting the route evaluation. And even if you're a sub, you're hurting the evaluation because you're not getting paid for what you should be doing on an hourly basis, especially if you're under 40 hours. And if you're getting 3 days work, guess what? You're cutting your own throat. So, don't do something you're not getting paid. I refuse to do anything that we don't get paid for. We have fought for this rec system that was supposed to correct that. And we're still not getting paid for everything we do. And now management is micromanaging to the point of harassment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of possible harassment. It is total harassment. And
I'm going to say this, mathematically speaking, there are 30,000 plus post offices in the United States. If one carrier from each of those offices is working off the clock every day, that is 30 85,000 plus routes that are being abused out of 85,000 routes that we have in the rural craft. That's over 1/3 of the routes in the rural craft if you do it that way. And you wonder why management has used that against us, because 1/3 of your carriers are under evaluation every single day. We can actually lower the value for these right here, 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 and here, and they still would be right at the evaluation that they're working now. That's the argument management is making at union contract negotiations. That is the problem, is that these carriers are hurting us, not just on the fact that they're working under evaluation for work that they're actually working over evaluation for, but they're also hurting us in contract negotiations in that instance. And that's something that they really need to think about.
And in retrospect, if you look at Rex now, we're at 86 letters a minute now. Guess what? That's a contributing factor there, because you're working off the clock. We went from 43 to 86. They doubled it because we're coming in underneath the valuations.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because we're efficient, okay, and most rural carriers are very efficient, but because others are off the clock. I don't know about you, that pisses me off.
Yeah, I have one that likes to come in early to do his take his stuff out to the truck, his scout's tray, and do his inspection. And I remind him every single day, do not do that. I said, all it's going to take is for a clerk to put a package and you don't see that. You turn around and trip. You are not on the clock. You are not covered. Don't work off the clock, people, and fight it to no end.
And anybody can file a grievance on that. Anybody can file a grievance on that. And then you just have to fill out portions 1 through 4 and then give it to your designated union representative.
Yep.
And what I've seen in our office is it creates a bit of animosity between the regular and the sub, because more times than not, it's a situation where the sub knows he's going to have an open route and he's going to have to do extra work, or she's going to have to do extra work. And all of a sudden the route's evaluation is an hour and a half under on a normal day. And it doesn't make sense. The regular's trying to figure out how the sub's doing it faster than they are, because they're doing it off the clock. Stop doing it, folks.
I have a carrier in my route that gets her route done 2 hours under evaluation, but she doesn't work off the clock. That's how it's supposed to be.
We have one that we're still trying to figure out how she gets a 45K done in 5.5, 6 hours daily. We have no clue. It doesn't matter how heavy it is. She's rarely ever more than 6 hours ever. How? I don't know. I run this route often. I don't know.
Like that.
But I do know that truck does go into the shop quite often. The brakes are squeaking right now. I noticed running that route yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. At that point, we just toss our hands in the air, and we don't know what.
I'm sure if you check that city metric, it would tell you exactly what's going on.
Oh, I'm sure. I am quite sure. Yeah, no clue. I don't know. Yeah. All right, what's the next one, guys?
Explain base rate and actual time on pay stub. How they pay actual hours under evaluation, then pay hours under actual time to total evaluation of weekly route.
My only
sure
question
exactly
is
what being asked,
I know what she's asking.
Okay.
I know what they're asking.
Go ahead.
I know exactly what they're asking. So your pay stub is broken down into several categories. Depending on whether you have a government vehicle or not, adds more categories to it. But the base rate, which is the evaluation of the route, you get the evaluated hours for the route. Actual time is the actual time you worked from the time you clocked in to the time you clocked out on your 4240. It should not match what your clock rings are on the scanner. It should match your 4240. That is what the union has said, and that's how it should be. Is management should be editing the times to match your 4240. But when you are a regular carrier, your only evaluation, the actual time only counts towards your 2080 or 2240 times when you're on the overtime list.
It also
But
count towards that 56 hours a week under the FLSA.
Yes, and the 56 hours a week under FLSA, excuse me. When you're a rural RCA, it is up to 40 hours. 40 hours even is where it switches. So if you work actual hours of 39.9 hours, you will get evaluation. And that is why the evaluation time will be the time you're paid for. Even if you worked more hours than the evaluation, which is the one caveat of that. If you work 40 hours and above, you'll get 40 hours plus overtime for the actual hours you worked. That's the difference between those two different categories. And it's a little convoluted, but it's only broken down that way so the bean counters have an easy way to explain it to themselves.
And that's how I was going to answer I was saying I'm not exact because of how they worded it. I wasn't exactly sure, but I was going to say that, put that. I have a follow-up question, and looking at my current stub now, I think I have the answer, but I want to make sure. The actual hours is just the 5 days. It does not, in the evaluation, it does not count the K-day worked.
That's if you're a K route. You got to remember, not everybody's a K route.
As I'm saying, your relief day. That does not include the hours worked on a relief day.
No, that goes towards your 2240.
That should be on a separate line.
Right. Well, it has overtime hours, which is just the daily evaluation.
Correct.
So I've got a couple things here. Kind of gonna move on just a tad bit. Kind of couple questions. One that came in as a private message to the page. Kind of goes hand in hand with another question that was asked. Whether it was on the page or in the group. I do believe it was in the group. Let me go back to that. Or it could have been on the page as well. This has to do with leave. There's a couple questions on leave.
One of when can annual leave be denied?
If there is
and then there's also
leave replacement available.
Can and cannot be used, including LWAP for Saturday for H and J's.
All right. And this one, I just came in through PM on the page. And it goes hand in hand with these. Can a regular carrier request LWAP in a formula office for a Saturday if there is a sub off? Sure. Leave. How can and cannot be used, including LWAP for Saturday on H and J routes? Followed up with the other one.
When can annual leave be denied?
Yes. So there's our 3 leave questions. Go ahead, guys.
Okay. Annual leave, depending on if you're a regular or a sub, can be denied under the verbiage is a little bit different.
I'm going to assume in all 3 of these questions that they're all regulars. So let's stick with the regulars first, and then we'll touch on leave for subs.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I was going to say, hold on. I got the tentative agreement in front of me for the current contract. I'm just trying to find.
Article 10 is leave.
Minimum hours. Regular rural carriers shall be granted annual leave in a minimum units of 1 day. Rural carriers should be granted annual leave in accordance with their personal wishes, provided a leave replacement is available. My contention on that is at the time of the request.
And also refer back to the order of consideration for that as well.
Yes. So
which is a conundrum because the order of consideration allows management to schedule an open route.
So it says in the
So,
event of an emergency, but we all know how their emergencies are.
Yeah, they might have to take it out.
Yeah.
and you also have to remember if you have a brand new sub in the office who just joined, they cannot be assigned to any other route than their primary route for the first
right.
2 pay periods of the assignment.
Well, let me read the very next paragraph. It says, if a leave replacement is committed to serve another regular rule route, and then this is the new language, a vacant route, or a route where the regular rule carrier is on extended leave, has approved leave, or is in the first 2 pay periods of assignment in the office. Such leave replacement is not available. A regular rural carrier should not be unreasonably denied annual leave because of a leave replacement assignment to an auxiliary route.
Then you have to follow in on the 12-hour rule for scheduling when combined with an aux route.
Yeah, they can't schedule
Yes.
you for more than 12 hours or work you more than 12 hours as a sub.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the contract.
Oh, they can work you. You just have to grieve it.
To get paid that overtime, because regulars get paid overtime if they go over 12 hours in a day. RCAs do not. You have to grieve it in order to get that pay.
Yeah.
And in that instance, please contact your assigned union representative if this is going on in your office.
Well, now, do they
And
not get after 12 hours in a day if it's one thing? So
No.
if you come in the morning, you sign in on Route 12, and all you did was Route 12,
No.
and it takes you 12 and a half hours?
No.
Okay. I
Nope.
wasn't sure. I knew because the only time I went over 12 is us, with green card time.
Nope.
So it wasn't one set thing, you
No,
know what
it's
I'm
12
saying?
hours.
It's 12
12
hours.
hours, period.
That's FLSA.
Doesn't
that's
doesn't matter
including
what
a
you
half
do.
hour. That includes a half hour lunch in that 12 hours.
Yes.
Yes. Lunch or break time's included in that 12-hour period. And potty time, too. Don't forget potty time.
Yeah. And potty time is on the clock.
Yes.
ma'am.
Both
You
management
assigned the party on the clock? What?
both management and the union's quick reference guide for the rec system both say you do not clock out to lunch for restroom breaks.
So if you have one of those that you're having to sit there for a little while, it's a bathroom break.
Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy
Enjoy
yourself.
yourself.
Bathroom breaks are not lunch. If they're gonna try and
Don't
ding you on a stationary event because you're trying to pinch one off, you're going to the bathroom.
Yeah, don't give yourself a hernia just to stay off of the stationary events.
Mm-hmm. Because we all have those emergencies from time to time. It happens.
Yep. And sometimes you can't help it. You get out there on your route and you all of a sudden about halfway through you're like, "Oh man, I drank way too much water today to stay hydrated. I need a bathroom."
Or you never know what dinner you ate the night before is doing to you that day.
Oh, yes,
Taco
I do.
Bell.
Yes, I
Taco
do.
Bell.
Unless you're a
That's why
cheese
we do Taco
lover.
Bell Saturday, so I'm home on Sunday.
But okay, back to the leave. We kind of sidetracked there. Entertainment factor here. Back to leave. How can and that be used, including LWAP, for Saturday on H and J routes? I haven't seen. I think.
So I do know that on H and J routes,
They get a
if
free
you schedule
Saturday.
if you schedule time off and you're normally scheduled to work that day, you should get that day free of charge, no annual day charged whatsoever on that Saturday. Because it would be unfair to carriers who have H and J routes to make them use an annual leave on a Saturday when the K route people don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm. But
You'd
it's
be
got to
burning an
be.
extra annual day compared to the K route people.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
see, that's the free Saturday, which is different than what I think they're asking. The free Saturday is if you put in a request for Saturday through Saturday, which is 7 days of annual leave, requesting 7 days of annual leave, the system will automatically only charge you
Sure.
for 5 on a J route, 6 for an H route. Or I'm sorry, it only charges you for the 5
On
days.
both.
For
On
both,
both,
yes.
5.
Right. Yeah. That's why I stepped back there for a moment on that. They're saying
But
because LWAP is at management's discretion with the exception of Saturdays. I'm not sure exactly where it is for in the case of J and H routes. So if they want to take a Saturday off, they potentially can request LWAP and not get paid for the day.
And that
and it,
goes, and like I said, and that private message there had to do with in a formula office if there's a sub available and they want to take LWAP for that Saturday, because we know how formula offices are. You may have a sub that's off on a Saturday. I don't know what that's like without requesting it.
happens all the time.
Yep.
Me either.
You should be able to put
Me
leave
either.
in, but leave without pay is management discretion. They could make you use an annual day for that.
And a
They could.
caveat for the free days, if you're putting in leave and you're a K, a J, an H, whatever, make sure that you put down all the days inclusive of your work schedule, like the H routes. Don't go Friday to Friday or Saturday to Saturday. Take it to the next day, and then you still put down 40 hours so you get your full pay. But there have been instances where people have gone as an H route and put in for a Saturday to Friday and then get called in the next day, not knowing that they were entitled to that free day.
Yeah, I just put in for our national convention, got it immediately approved, and I put in for that Monday through Sunday night because I wasn't going to take any chances of them calling me in on Saturday to cover when they're shorthanded. I'm sorry, I'm going to need a day off after the national convention for sure.
Well, that's
Yep.
because you'll be celebrating with me.
Yeah.
I still have to put in for Saturday. I think I'll do that tomorrow when I get there. Yeah, I haven't put in for Saturday yet. I need to do that. I wasn't thinking about that.
Oh, I put it in until Tuesday morning.
Plus, there's another
I knew.
festival near my parents' house I might want to go to Saturday night as well. So we'll see what happens.
Was that all the leave questions?
I think so. Can a regular carrier request LWAP at a formula office? You can request it. LWAP again is management's discretion, with the exception of Saturdays. If there's a sub that's off and your LWAP gets denied on a Saturday, I would contact your assigned union rep.
Yep.
Now, to complete this section, can you talk about RCA's taking leave now?
RCA's taking leave.
We can, but I stepped away from.
If there is a leave replacement available, again, it comes down to if there is another leave replacement available, to cover. If it's like if it's the regular's K day that you're normally covering, and you didn't work it out or you weren't able to work it out with your regular for them to work, maybe do a DACA R to flop it around, or you're taking extended. Then if there's another leave replacement available, and again, it comes down into the first come, first serve.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
right
I
there.
have an example. I have an example of that in my office.
Well,
We had a situation come up, and we're going to be short-handed when a RCA asked for 2 days off in advance that occurred before the situation happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was already approved.
Yep.
Now, the only thing my supervisor or postmaster can do now is ask them if they wouldn't mind coming into work. They can't force them off their leave because they've got a signed leave slip saying they're approved to have that time off.
Exactly.
But it's an emergency.
That's not an emergency.
It's not an emergency. They can call in somebody from other offices. They can find help elsewhere. They can
settle up and deliver it themselves. Yeah. I had a regular carrier carried my aux route for me Saturday because we had our other two. Well, the one RCA was off. Don't get me started on that one. But a completely different scenario. But my leave had been approved for quite a bit of time. I did put it outside the 60 days because I had I paid a hefty amount for last weekend, let's put it that way. And my 1H route, because we have 4 Ks in an H in my office now, and so obviously anybody working their K days was not going to be able to work, and I know the 2 that have the Monday K days weren't going to do it. So they asked the H route carrier if she wanted to take the aux route, and she was more than happy to take it. So I could have that Saturday off while I was gone this weekend. So yeah, it's, if you got people in your office willing to help you out, that's awesome. But if it's pre-approved, and something happens down the pipeline before that time off comes, they can't force you to give it up. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a regular or an RCA, you enjoy that time off with a signed leave slip.
Yeah, don't let management goad you into taking your time off and going back to work. If you don't want to work and you have that signed leave slip, you don't have to work. It benefits the office if you do, and I can't argue that it doesn't benefit the office. But your time is your time. You came here to work at the post office for specific wages, specific work conditions, and specific benefits. And one of those benefits is time off from the job.
Yep. So sometimes it doesn't feel like we have time off. By the way, I thoroughly enjoyed my weekend away. Very rarely do I take personal time. I mean, they'll complain, I'm an RCA and you get all this time off. I got a couple of them that complain. But the majority of my time off that I put a request in for is for conferences and conventions and union-related business. So, it's like I tell them, I'm fighting the good fight for you guys. All right, so I think, does that pretty much cover everything for the leave questions?
Well, did you want me to read the language for leave for RCA's
Sure.
leave?
Go ahead.
Just so you can see what the difference is?
Yep, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to read the one sentence, 1 or 2 sentences. It says, rural carrier associates shall be granted annual leave in hourly increments. Rural carrier associates shall be granted annual leave in accordance with their personal wishes, provided there is sufficient leave replacement coverage in the office. Where for regular carriers, it said, it shall be, at the time when a leave replacement is available, is for regular carriers, and it just says shall for,
coverage.
If there's sufficient coverage, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah, so they can't leave a route open for that.
Exactly.
For you to take leave.
I'm going to answer this next one real quick. Which scan pays more, front door or left with customer? They pay the same. Front door, left with customer, at garage, other location, pays the same. You have the 3 different categories: in the mailbox, parcel locker, and to the door. And everything outside of that pays pretty much to the door.
It is all to the door, whether you do that or mailroom or any of that stuff.
Yep.
Yes.
So even if they meet you at the mailbox and you hit deliver it to customer, you're gonna get paid that door credit because you didn't deliver. Yes.
Carrier discretion.
Carrier discretion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And somebody did ask how Rex really works. If you really wanted us to explain how Rex really works, it would take us 3 or 4 episodes to do so. And on top of that, we don't even have all the information. Our union doesn't have all the information on how it works. Nobody has all the information.
Is there a... Okay, this kind of goes hand in hand.
That would be 3 or 4 episodes to cover what we do know.
And that's like 3-hour episodes, not just 3 or 4 episodes. That would be like 3-hour episodes.
And I think I saw something about
is there
explaining the drive matrix.
Well, let me finish this one because this kind of goes hand in hand with this last one, the packages. Is there a footage minimum for a second trip? Say I'm only walking 10 feet back to my vehicle. Is it still considered a second trip? At what distance to be? Anytime you go back to your vehicle for another package or whatever else to go back to that door, doesn't matter the distance. Or if you go to the door, drop off the first package, you go back to the truck to get the second one, if it's that big or whatever. Anytime you have to make a second trip to get the rest of the stuff that gets delivered, even if they meet you halfway out there. Oh, hey, I'll meet you out there so you don't have to carry the rest of it there. Yeah, that's an additional trip to door. Anytime that you have to go back to the truck to get more and retrieve it and go back, that is an additional trip.
Yep. Same with CBUs. Authorized dismounts.
Mm-hmm.
Carry what you can safely carry to the mailbox. Do your thing. Go back to the truck. Grab your next amount you can handle safely. Take it to the CBU. Sort it. However many trips it takes. And that is an authorized dismount.
Are we allowed to use trip to door or not? Been told by our supervisor and postmaster that multiple trips for large parcels that have scans do not use trip to door. Once scanned at door, it gives us credit for each parcel. Likewise with certifieds, don't use door miscellaneous since scanning them gives us door credit. You don't need to use door miscellaneous for certifieds. But anytime you're making more than one trip, you use the trip to the door. And that includes parcel pickups as well. If you have a parcel pickup request and you're making 3 trips to get all those parcels from where you're picking them up to the truck, that's additional trips to the door. It is explained in the Rex activity guide. If you are having issues and your supervisors and your PMs are telling you you don't scan these extra scans, you need to contact your district rep ASAP and let them know that is going on. They are keeping track of that.
Yep. I'm sorry, I blanked out there for a second. Yes, you're getting credit if you have 3 packages to the door. Yes, you're getting credit for all 3 packages, but you're only getting credit for 1 trip, which is why you're going in to put the trip to door to get that dismount distance from your park point to the door and back.
Yes.
I honestly think that should be included in the trip to door segment, or all the ones that relate to delivering somewhere specifically. It should be included that how many trips did it take you to deliver these parcels?
Mm-hmm.
But they won't do that because that costs them money.
Yeah.
Just like all the other extra verifications to make sure we're not doing extra scans, like clock in and things like that. It costs money to change the program like that.
Yep. I would love it that clock in would gray out after you do it, because like yesterday, I went to scan my VMF scan and didn't realize it was for some reason under the Rex scans, and I hit clock in instead of scan barcode. I'm like, oh well.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I kind of went, well, that's not right. So yeah.
Did you clock out twice too?
No, I did not.
Here's one. Can a 41K route be cut if regular carrier exceeds evaluation weekly, usually 1 to 1.5 hours weekly? It's not due to route being overburdened. Pretty sure I know the answer per the contract, but just needing confirmation.
No, it's not considered overburdened. 47 and 48 are interim considered overburdened, interim overburden evaluations. 41s are not. However, there is
I
exceptions
was
to
gonna say,
that.
but they're going, if they're an hour to an hour and a half over, which means they're doing it in 42 to 43 hours a week, that puts them in 2080 issues, potential 2080 issues, which then they could potentially try and reevaluate the route.
But you got to look
But
at, is the carrier 55 and over?
that too. And then the other aspect of that is, does the carrier take leave on occasion?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
If the carrier's taken leave, that actually benefits them on the 2080 issues. So they don't have to
Yep.
worry about hitting 2080. Like for me taking all this time off for union activities benefits me in the 2080 category because I'm burning up annual leave and not putting down actual hours. And the actual hours are what the 2080 is based on.
All right, this one, I'm going to tell you right now, we really don't have an answer for this one, but I'm going to read it. I'd like to hear more about CBUs and how they're counted for in REX. I'm hearing different things as route coverage is not counting if not in DPS, when most of my CBUs come in raw mail. This is a big deal for a lot of our routes, and I'm not getting any help or answers on this topic. There is also a comment underneath this that kind of goes hand in hand that says this, over 900 just added on new development that I will not be compensated for until ... will be over 1,200 boxes. 46K went down to a 40H.
Number one, I feel sorry for every single person that has CBUs. There is not a single CBU route out there that I know of that has not been severely hurted by Rex. Hurted, that's an interesting word. Severely hurt by Rex. And there's been a lot of back and forth talking about that, including if the first address is vacant, the entire CBU is considered vacant. And of course, the DPS credit with informed visibility, which is different from informed delivery. Informed visibility is the DPS system scanning the letters as they go through the machine. And unfortunately, there are not any answers that are set in stone about CBUs anywhere in any of the materials that we have access to. And I guarantee you it's going to be the same answers up at the national level because they have the same information we do. They may know more through management than we do because they're constantly talking with management. But unfortunately, nobody has those answers because nobody has the transparent information to tell us. And there's no transparency in Rex right now.
Correct. Drive matrix. Who wants to explain the drive matrix? Anybody?
Sure.
Yeah.
Give me just a second to pull up the 99-page guide.
I know it's based off
let me put
the
it in simple
distance that you
terms here.
travel.
Sit down, Josh. Shh. Let me put it in very simple terms. Under the old system, miles were a good thing. Now, miles are your enemy because of the fact that the speed matrix is based on how fast you're traveling on the roads, and they have that information inputted. So if, like in my case, my speed matrix is 18 miles an hour, whereas somebody with a 55, 60-mile route, theirs is up at 43 miles an hour. And they're getting paid less per mile.
And this is why my 93-mile POV route with 481 boxes, one of the reasons why it lost 3 hours. Because when you have 93 miles and only 481 boxes, that distance between the boxes is a lot greater. Therefore, you're not getting paid as much. Whereas our 42J that went up to a 41K. So if you were an L route in the past, which we no longer have, and you averaged that at 12 boxes per mile, You made out pretty good with this drive speed matrix. If you were a non-L route, you did not.
You got screwed.
Yes, you did.
You got screwed.
Yes,
So,
you did.
The way it's broken down for the speed matrix, just under a mile is 5,280 feet. At 5,190 feet or greater, you must average a speed of 39.45 miles per hour. So anything about a mile or more, you've got to be doing almost 40 miles an hour the entire distance in order to equal the speed matrix.
Without
If
any
you
traffic
are
control points.
without any TCPs, without any hindrance of old ladies on their Sunday drive on a Tuesday, none of that stuff, or a gravel train that just pulled out in front of you as you turn the corner from your TCP, 40 miles an hour. And you got to do that, especially in an LLV. You got to get that thing up to 40 miles an hour as quickly as possible in order to match your speed matrix. But if it's 0 to 15 feet, your creep speed, when you put mailboxes really close together, your creep speed is 4.57 miles per hour. So in between that, in distances, is about 50 different levels of the speed matrix from that 4.57 miles per hour all the way up to the 40 miles per hour. And it's divided into, well, literally it goes from 15 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, so on, up 5, 10, 15, 20, so on up the list as you increase the distances until you get to the 5,190 feet.
And when you have a route like my primary, where you have 10 miles from the office to the first box, deadhead, and then you have 13 miles from the last box back to the office, deadhead, that hurts.
And if your speed limits are 25 miles an hour all the way to your route, you're never going to match the speed matrix at all.
Nope.
On that distance. Unless you want to get a speeding ticket. And I believe some states, if you're 20 miles or 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, it actually becomes an arrestable offense. It's considered reckless driving.
I had another one that came over messages on the page. You guys are going to love this one. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to let you guys handle it because I need to take a quick break away from the mic. Are packages counted correctly when someone else delivers them on static? I think that's what they call it, when they scan them in order for the persons who take them. I will be right back, folks.
All right. Static or dynamic delivery, when they scan them, that's scanning a couple of routes at a time as one delivery route. The last I heard was that does not get credited to your route. I think unless it was scanned individually to the route first and they go back and make a static or dynamic route after the fact. I know at Christmas time, National was supposedly working on getting those packages credited back to the routes.
Don't hold your breath on that.
No, don't hold your breath on management allowing that credit through. And think of static and dynamic as Amazon Sunday style delivery for carriers.
Exactly.
It allows them to actually use the scanner as a GPS to deliver the packages. And it doesn't credit it to the route, it credits to the static or dynamic route that they create for it. And just like Sunday, you don't get credit for the Amazon parcels that get delivered on Sundays, you're not going to get credit for them on static either because they're not scanned to your route. But like was mentioned earlier, if they scan it to the route first and then you separate it and you let them take it and they create a static route with that, it does give the credit to the route. You just don't get the delivery credit for it. And you wouldn't get the delivery credit for it if a sub delivered it for you under just standard parcel assistance. You would still get the credit to the route for the parcels and the numbers that add up to that. You just don't get the added benefit of the delivery scan adding to your route.
It's the same way we have the WS routes, on our Amazon Sunday, and the carriers go out and deliver it. Everything gets credited to the route per se, but not to you.
It gets credited to the Amazon route on Sunday.
Correct.
And it is beneficial to everybody if you make sure that they're doing it the right way in your office. And if they're not doing it the right way, you need to definitely contact your designated union rep and let them know that they're cheating you out of money, because that's your money. That's your evaluation that they're cheating you out of.
I'd still say the RCAs ought to be getting time and a half on Sunday.
I can't argue with you there. They deserve it, because we shouldn't be delivering on Sunday anyways. We've been a Monday through Saturday organization since we basically were formed. And to then throw around Sunday just to appease Amazon, and then throwing in UPS, I think it was, they threw in on there.
Yeah. And everybody else, I mean, if it floats in Westchester. Go ahead.
They won't throw FedEx on because FedEx cut the contract with the Postal Service. But they'll throw in USPS parcels too.
Mm-hmm.
Some offices are doing that now, and that's not right either, because that is evaluation parcels right there.
Not if they say Sunday delivery on them.
We shouldn't be delivering postal products on Sunday.
Yeah, well, no argument here.
There is exceptions to that as express mail, but
right,
there is Sunday and holiday express delivery. But
if we weren't working Amazon Sunday, we wouldn't be delivering on Sunday or holidays if we didn't have Amazon. So that's a moot point as it is.
Unless there is an express that is paid to have Sunday or holiday delivery.
How did they do that before Amazon Sunday?
We had, before Amazon Sunday came into my old office, we did have RCAs that were, I'm not going to say on call, but made themselves available in the event that there was an express that needed to be delivered on a holiday or a Sunday. And I have delivered expresses on Sundays and holidays. I was on call for Christmas for expresses. Well, not on call, I should say, but I was available. We had two come in one year, and the other RCA who I had kids, and the other RCA said, yeah, I'll go ahead and take them. So, yes, there was Sunday and holiday expresses, but that was the only exception.
That should be time and a half.
No.
That should be a time and a half, and the RCA should get a minimum of 2 hours for sitting around seeing if there's an express.
But no, that was just if they called you, if there was one. But
That's my opinion, is an RCA should be, quote unquote, on call for that.
But my old office was also a hub office, so those expresses weren't necessarily local. I have driven an hour and a half, 2 hours to deliver express. I've delivered cremated remains on a Sunday.
But I still say it should be time and a half and minimum of 2 hours, and the RCA is, quote unquote, on call volunteer.
I agree.
Well,
but yeah.
But we could always have somebody put that up as a resolution for next year.
Exactly.
Well, when I was in RCA at my first station, they would first take volunteers and then schedule, if we didn't get enough people to volunteer, to come in on holidays to run express until the plant decided they were going to have the PSEs, or whatever they're called at the time, from the express room, run them directly.
A comment came in on that saying postmasters around here did our Sunday holiday express. Well, hey, good for them. Express mail is the one and only non-craft specific form of mail. Anybody can deliver express anywhere. Your janitor can take an express and deliver it. A rural can deliver on a city. Express is the only exception. If you have an express piece of mail that is addressed to a house that does not have a mailbox, it still gets delivered to that address. That is the only exception.
Thing that with no mail receptacle.
Yes.
Which is funny. I have one house that has no mail receptacle, and she mails out certified with return receipts, and the return receipt address to deliver to is her home address. So she's paying for the return receipt service, but isn't getting, has at least in the last 8 years that I've had the route, has never gotten the card back because she doesn't have a mail receptacle.
All right.
So it goes to dead letter.
And
I deliver them all to the dead letter tub.
Going back to the leave thing, leave replacements within a 50 miles of your office. I know I'm trying to think of where I've seen the 50 mile in writing, but again, it's one of those things that I don't know. But yeah, they need to check with other offices prior to denying leave if they can get the coverage.
And if they don't do that, if they say they did it, have them prove. Say, what offices did you call?
Yep. And if you put an email out, I want a copy of that email.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, it's in an MOU. I knew it was in writing somewhere.
Now, let's get back to Sundays with the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You know what really pisses me off is we have 3 highway contractor routes that we have to deliver. And that irks me to no end. I mean, excuse my French, but that just fucking pisses me off because of the fact that the highway contractors weren't allowed to bid for Sunday work. Specifically, their contract says that they're not bidding for Sunday hours. And we have to do it. So why are we paying people to do highway work?
Correct. That's the one thing, like I said, my only saving grace right now in my office is the fact that we don't have Sunday Amazon delivery at this point. And I know my postmaster would probably fight that tooth and nail because she doesn't want to have to pay a clerk overtime to come in and sit around while we're out delivering. And like I said, thankfully, that's my only saving grace at this point in time. I'm going to switch over, and I know we've got a couple... was there any of the other ones that you guys want to discuss before I switch over to the comments on the podcast pages?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Not that I can think of.
I do have one going that was on episode 30. They commented, how do you become a national delegate? I do believe we covered that in an episode.
Well, I'll quickly go over that.
Go right ahead.
At some point, usually just between December and February, the newsletter will have, the national magazine will have the delegation nomination form with a P.O. box for your individual state to fill it out, and you can self-nominate or nominate someone else. Mail it to that P.O. box. A ballot will then be mailed out to every member in your state, and it'll say, like, for example, I'm in North Carolina. It said we had 50 delegates available this year. You are not allowed to vote for more than 50 people of the 70 something names that were on the list. And it has the list of names that are usually randomly ordered, put on the sheet, and it has a little bubble, and you just fill in the bubble for who you want to vote for. You put that in a secret ballot, a blacked out envelope, which goes into a second envelope where you put your name and address so they can verify that you are a member in good standing. They tabulate all, Once they open that envelope, they discard it and just put the black envelope in a separate pile. And then they go through and they tabulate all the votes. And in order of the most votes down to number 50, these are your delegates. They announce who those are at the state convention. I believe it has to receive at the PO box, the nomination, or I'm sorry, the ballot has to receive at the a secondary PO box where the state convention location is a day or two before the convention opens.
Yeah, it
So the
depends on
election
when they
committee
have
can
their election committee comes in.
right, as I'm saying, 1 to 2 days before the actual opening of the convention, of the state convention, so they can tabulate those votes. And then they announce who, from the most votes down to the least votes, in order of these first 50 are delegates. Everyone after that is a non-delegate. North Carolina, we pay the first 3 non-delegates the same delegate pay because potentially you'll get moved up as a delegate.
Amazon
I'm
schedules.
And then states, don't forget state too. You can
Yep.
run for a delegate for state, and that is within your regional
Or
regional or local
local.
district.
Yeah.
for my region is my county. That is my local unit is my county. There are some that are multiple counties. For a few of them, it's the whole state. But that'll be in your state magazine before the national one comes out. So you want to be looking for that too, because like for mine, I put myself in to be a delegate, and there weren't enough people running for state delegate, so I was automatically made a delegate, basically by unanimous decision, because there was no need to vote when you had everybody that signed up being a delegate.
Right. And like, for example, with, I don't know how any others, I know, like you said, some states have a mail-in for the state, for your local, a delegate for your local district or region to the state convention. The way we do it is, we have a sign-in sheet at the local meeting that gets passed around. And we say, if you know someone that you think might be attending, add their names. And then after it's passed around and all the names are collected, our secretary treasurer says, these are the names that have been nominated for delegation at the state convention. And she reads all the names out, and we take it to a verbal vote, an aye or nay vote. Do we accept this list as our delegates from our local district to go to the state convention? We have never had an issue of the same as James, where we've had more people on the list than we had available delegates.
So
So
if you want
everyone,
to be involved, get involved, because there's room for you to be involved at the state level. There's room for you to be involved at the national level. Think about this. Last year, I was a non-delegate for national convention. But in that time, I've met enough people and talked with enough people, and enough people thought I had a good opinion of what direction this union should go in, that they elected me to be delegate at national convention this year. It's not that hard to run for delegate. And even if you don't win, you can still go to the conventions and participate as a non-delegate. Ask Kristen. She's been a non-delegate at these things and still participated in them.
3 out of my 4 times I have been an alternate delegate that did not get bumped up. The only time that I have been a delegate was Grapevine 2019. As of right now, I'm still on the alternate list, but I'll still be there. I can't vote, and I can't go to the mic without somebody requesting to suspend the rules and it getting voted in for me to go to the mic, which is a very good possibility I may with my one resolution that goes up. So we will see what happens. just so I can speak on behalf of my resolution. Yeah, I go, even though I can't vote, I still go. And going as a state delegate first, because like I said, it's a lot of times in most areas, it's a lot easier to become a state delegate. That at least you're getting to know people. And so maybe that next year you have a better chance of getting voted in as a national delegate by meeting the people and talking to them and getting up on the mic as a state delegate when necessary and voicing your opinion on the state level. I mean, it's great practice for the national. As Josh can say, he was a first timer to national last year, and he's like, that was like state convention on steroids, and it really is.
and let me make this point. Not only are we doing this podcast for free on our own time for your benefit, and for everybody listening, we also use our own time, our annual leave, to attend these conferences, state conventions, national conventions, and that's vacation time for everybody else. But we're spending our annual leave, to go to these things so that we're more well informed, that we can pass that information on, that we can become more involved. And this is the level of commitment that this, team of hosts have, elevated themselves to for the betterment of this craft. This is not just for us. This is for all of those people out there, everyone listening, everybody that gets the podcast during the week. We put this time in for your benefit.
And I'm going to add to that, Bill, as an RCA still for a few more months anyways. Up until this year, I didn't have leave to use. And I still went to everything. And I didn't get paid. I didn't have leave to burn. That was national conventions a whole week of no pay. It was in the past for me. And I'm really close to only having maybe a few hours of leave available for this next convention, as I was double looking at everything. But, I've going to regional conferences and state conventions and national conventions. This will be my 5th national convention. And this is the only one that I had leave to use for it. I was going to all these and cutting my paycheck drastically to be there for all of you.
If an RCA can put herself out like that, lose money to go to these conventions and represent us, I don't want to hear one regular ever tell me they don't have time to put 10 minutes a day into bettering their job and protecting themselves against a hostile work environment from tyrannical management individuals who have no knowledge whatsoever what we do, how we do it, and just berate us left and right.
Mm-hmm.
So if this RCA is willing to put her ass out there, and she does, then folks, you need to step up too.
And think about this. I'm on table 2. I'm living paycheck to paycheck just like most of the rest of you are. I'm going to these things because, like everybody else here, I want to know more. I want to be the best rural carrier I can be with the most knowledge of what my job entails and what I am supposed to and not supposed to do. I do this to stay within my contract and within the law, whether it be coming on here and doing this podcast and helping rural carriers out, or being involved at conferences and conventions and things like that. It's important to me to know that something's being done to help benefit this craft.
And change.
Because the problem is so many people have been disenfranchised by the way things have been going.
There is a massive split within the union itself.
And we want to be the people who sit here and say, we may not have all the answers, but we're going to give you as much information about your work conditions, your benefits, your wages, what's going on with your job, how you can deal with these conditions.
And how you can have a voice in fighting for the changes that you feel need to be made.
And how we can do a concerted effort to make our job better for everybody. We can sit here and spew oral diarrhea all night long, talking about carrier discretion this, supposedly that. But at the end of it all, our goal is for you to do all the research you can, get involved, come to state convention, come to national convention, go to your boosters, go to events that are going on, go to your county meetings, your regional meetings, all that stuff.
Regional conferences are a wealth of knowledge. Your regional conferences, your SAC, your SWAC, your mid-states, your what all the other ones are a Eastern and Pac West and Western and all that stuff. It's not business. It's all information. And I can't express enough how much information that you can take away from just these regional conferences alone. And like we said in the past, even, you may, if you belong to the mid-states, but those dates don't work out with scheduling, but you may be like on the border of Atlantic or SWAC or SAC or something or another, you can still sign up and go to these other regional conferences. You don't have to be part of that region and only attend that region. If it's not going to fit in with your schedule, you can attend one of the other ones. And I've seen several attendees that belong to a different region that go to other regions just because, for one thing or another, but a lot of times it just comes down to schedules.
And management has to give you the time off because it's a union function.
Article 24.
Article 24 in the contract, management is required to give you the time off for union functions.
I believe it actually reads they are
make every effort.
Supposed to make every effort above and beyond normal effort.
Yep.
Above and beyond the normal effort for annual leave. And on top of that, that is one of the few reasons they can give leave without pay.
Yes.
Is to attend union functions. So you don't even have to use annual leave to go to these things if you don't want to.
You can.
I use annual leave just to keep my paycheck going.
Having that annual leave as an RCA now does benefit me in that aspect. I mean, it is nice. Don't get me wrong. And as an RCA, being able to use it in hourly increments, I don't use a full 8 hours a day. I may use, I have a 2.67 hour aux route. There, depending on how many days I'm going to be gone or what I'm doing, I may only take 2, 3, 4 hours tops. I don't use a whole day of leave for it. 4 hours I think is the most I've done for stuff. That just at least gives me something is better than nothing on the paycheck. Trust me. When you get back especially after a national convention being gone all week, and you're only having a 1 week paycheck, then, at least having those extra few hours helps as an RCA. Next year I'll be regular. But I actually talked to the regular day before yesterday in my office, and she's still planning on 1st of September. So I told her, I said, I'm counting down right there with you. And I already told the sub that's assigned to that route, I said, when she goes, and when she goes, it's right about the time our seasonals start heading back south for the winter. I said, I will help you understand what to do when it comes to these seasonals, and I will show him how to do an edit book. That way he has some knowledge, and I'm not having to play massive cleanup when I take that route over. I can at least be like, all right, let's, we'll do this. I'll come in, we'll go through it together, and I'll show him how it's done. I mean, my old regular in my old office, Most of you, I know my co-hosts that will be at National will get to meet her. She showed me how to do the edit book, because as a test study office, and we did the very first phasing of mapping, she was one of those mapping facilitators that traveled. And she sat down with me and went over the edit book with me. That way I could keep it up, because there was times where she was going to be gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. And that's where I gained my knowledge. I mean, and I told him, I will show you how to do that edit book. Not a problem. You know, I've got regulars in my office that come to me about their edit books. It's just, you know, a wealth of knowledge. And they all respect me in that aspect that, you know, hey, I've got a question. This is not like, oh yeah, we just got to mark it this way or flip these around, or, you know, I need to do this and consolidate on my case this way. And I can show them how to do all that stuff. And they appreciate my knowledge for being able to help them, even as a regular. And it really gets my goat when regulars don't take the time with their RCAs on their routes to show them how to do it correctly.
Kristen, someone in one of the, I don't know if it was the chat for here or chat, someone said that they won't be able to make it to any of the regional conferences. Is there a way to order the transcripts? That I do not know.
That you would have, I don't know. I know who the Mid-State Secretary is. I don't think there's actually transcript. I don't think it's transcribed the way like national and state conventions are with an actual court reporter, if I'm correct.
There's no court reporter at Mid-States.
No, there is not. Basically, you're just going to have to find somebody that was there and that took notes. Unfortunately, There is no transcriptions for that. Oh gosh, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, I want to put this out there for everybody. As of right now, we have a table for a national convention banquet. I do have a few tickets open, like 2, possibly 3. I'm still waiting on the final head count. But if there's any of you out there that are going to national, and I went ahead and paid for this table ahead of time. If there is anybody of you that's going to national and did not get, whether it's a last minute sign up, or you weren't sure if you could afford the banquet, or you're not sure if you wanted to go to the banquet, and you want to go to the banquet and you want to sit with us, please reach out to our Facebook page, and I'll hook you up. No charge. I will have a final head count here shortly and how many banquet tickets we have, and if I have to kind of do a drawing on it. But those that are interested in sitting at the table with us, like I said, 2, possibly 3 open seats for the banquet, please let me know, and we'll go from there.
And you get to meet the hosts of the show.
And you get to sit with us at banquet. So, hey, it could be a fun time.
And no, we're not celebrities, and no, we're not signing anything.
No, I'm just offering a couple extra seats that we have up that unfortunately, you know, some people I went ahead and reserved a whole table, and we'll fill those however it needs to be. But I would rather put that out to our listeners. Anybody that wants to sit with us at banquet, if you don't have a banquet ticket, we will see what we can do. Like I said, it'll be only a couple, but hey, we'll see what we can do.
And I'll pick up the slack, okay?
It's already paid for. Check's cleared. I'm good. But I know. I'm an RCA. I put that money out. Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
taking care of everybody.
I do.
At the PA state convention, we're 35 tickets short for the Veterans Club, and I bought them up. And they were handing them out. They were handing out free membership to these people, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to join. It's already paid for." Oh, okay. As soon as it's paid for, they said, "Oh, okay." I was like, no big deal. But I hate to see anything lost on the veterans group.
Okay, so we are going to wind it down a little bit longer than what we've had in the past few episodes, but that's okay. I'm back. I had a few of you that reached out and said, "We missed you last week." Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I kind of missed.
We missed you too.
Are you sure? But yeah, I really needed that personal time away. It was, like I said, I'm still kind of physically recovering from it, but I'm not in my 20s anymore. But yeah, we're gonna wind down. So, Josh, any last thoughts, comments, whatever need be for this evening?
Be safe out there. Stay hydrated. Um, know the symptoms. If you're starting to not feel well, get out of the heat, get out of the sun. If you get overwhelmed, and call back and tell them, whether you send a message through the scanner, call them, text them, whatever, however you need to, just let them know, look, I'm not feeling good. The heat's getting to me. That way they can't say anything to you for sitting still for a while. Don't get overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, step back in. Have a good week. See you next time.
I'm going to add to that real quick. I do highly recommend, if you can call, to please call the office. I had an issue with one of my other RCAs who is not heat tolerant in the least bit, who texted the supervisor. He, according to his phone, showed that she read it, but she never replied. He was getting a hold of me, and when I got back to the office, I said something to her. She had actually not seen that text and said, why didn't he call? They still want to kind of argue with me with going out and helping him because of ad hoc time and being on some list. I don't know. So they finally just said, just put it down as a split. I went and found him. He was in rough shape. I was really worried about him. Unfortunately, they would not let me take the rest of the route off of him, so I took a good portion off of him, and luckily he had the next couple days to go home and rest and rehydrate. But I do recommend calling if it's a situation to where you're in dire need. Please call 911. And then whoever responds can call your office as well. If you're trying to call the office, you can't get a hold of anybody, call 911, because your safety comes first and foremost. And that first responder can then try and get a hold of the office as well. They could radio dispatch, they could send an officer to the office if they need me to get a hold of somebody. But yes, your safety, your health is number one.
Always.
James, go ahead.
Yeah, and remember, it's not a matter of focusing on getting the route done, stuff like that. That's what put me down. I was 30 minutes from the end of my route, and I was feeling exhausted, feeling lightheaded, and I pushed through it. And that put me down for 3 days. It could have killed me. I made the mistake of pushing through it instead of taking a break, cooling myself off, and trying to keep myself alive. I pushed through on the basis that I wanted to get done to get to the office air conditioning. And I made that almost fatal mistake.
Yeah, and
Don't do that
that's
to yourself.
probably what happened with me Monday.
Yeah.
And then instead of taking Tuesday off, I just chalked it up to the one time, maybe I actually didn't drink enough or whatever, and then went in Tuesday. I said every day Tuesday, but when I got home, after I got home, I was starting to feel it, which is why I decided to call out for Wednesday. And the worst part is, that's when they had the call out system was down because they were merging it. They were updating the software and merging it from Orange over to text.
Yeah.
So I had to actually wait until Wednesday morning and just had to keep calling the office until someone answered.
Yeah, I don't want to ever go through that again. And I make sure that when I start feeling hot, I stop and cool off.
Mm-hmm.
I have places I park my truck underneath a tree and let the truck cool off while I get out of the truck to cool off.
Yeah,
Because
those
sitting
trucks
in
are,
that truck, you will not cool off sitting in that truck trying to cool off.
and those trucks can be 20 degrees or more warmer on the inside than they are on the outside.
And you have to remember you have an engine and exhaust right in front of and right under the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
The exhaust pipe runs right under the driver's seat.
And whoever
So you're
put
getting that heat coming up through the truck even when you're sitting in the shade. So do what you can to keep yourself safe, keep yourself cool, and just do your job to the best of your ability so you can go home at the end of the night. That's all I got.
Bill.
Well, I'm glad James cleared up the exhaust under the truck because my exhaust has enough heat of its own.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, James and Josh both made the fatal mistakes of thinking of pushing themselves, and that is the fatal mistake. As soon as you feel like that, you want to get done and you're trying to push through it, that's when your common sense has to kick in and you have to step out of that vehicle, open up the doors, even open up the back, get some air flowing through there, get the metal cooled down a little bit, sit under a tree, and take as much time as you need. Because when you push like that, folks, that's when accidents are going to happen. And like you said, don't call the office, call 911 and let them call the office or send a patrol car to the office, whatever. God's sakes, this job is not worth your life. Okay. And we've already had several carriers lost on both sides of the craft.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of yourselves. I always say, make sure that you get home. You're the most important delivery of the day. I don't know you. You don't know me. But trust me, I don't want to read any more deaths delivering, packages, the Amazon, the dog food. It's not worth your life. Ladies and gentlemen, get home to the ones that love you. You're the most important delivery, and I mean that.
Absolutely. I mean, we are posting record temperatures in many parts of the U.S. I'm not going to say global warming is true or not. That's not my decision to say on that. But the heat thing is real. I mean, I experienced that last weekend. I was in Ohio, temperatures were in the mid 80s, but I am surrounded by 25,000 people. It makes it a lot hotter than what it normally is. No shade. And it was rough in some spots. I will tell you, luckily they had hydration stations. And Saturday I remembered I packed my USPS cooling towels for my daughter and I. And so every time we went and refilled our water bottles, we were, wetting down our cooling towels to take with us. It's real. It's not even just in the mail trucks. It can happen just being out and about and outside in the heat as well. And every time, my daughter's all like, oh, I do this. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to sit here in front of these huge fans in the VIP section that I paid $200 extra a ticket for, and I'm going to stay cool. Don't forget sunscreen as well. Even if it's a cloudy day, you can still be submitted to those nasty, nasty rays. Don't, stay cool, stay hydrated. Don't chug ice cold water because that can be detrimental to you as well. If you're in a situation to where you can get to air conditioning, whether it's a business on your route. I know one of my routes has an apartment complex. It has the old centralized boxes in the wall that you key in and pull them out. And they're air conditioned. I will take my time in there just to try and cool down a little bit when I'm delivering that mail. I
would say, I just want to touch back based on what you were saying on the sunscreen on a cloudy day.
Mm-hmm.
On a cloudy day, it's probably the UV is probably worse than on a sunny day.
Yep. Yeah, because you're thinking, oh, it's cloudy. I don't need sunscreen. Yeah, you do. I lathered up all last week, and even on Saturday when it rained intermittently, we still made sure we put that sunblock on before we left to the festival grounds, and we took it with us, and we reapplied as needed throughout the day. Seek where you can cool yourself down. I mean, parking in the shade, turning that truck off, get out of the truck to cool yourself down. call your office. You got not getting any response from your office. It's getting bad. You call 911. You do what you have to do to protect yourselves. Like I said, I have another RCA in my office who, I'm not a very heat tolerant person as is. My tolerance level has gone up since I've had this job, but I am not a very heat tolerant person, never have been. I like my cold AC. And I'm very much a cold winter person. I guess that just comes from living in northern Michigan. But, I still check on him, even if I know it's hot and I'm in a spot where I can stop. I will call him. I will send him a text. Hey, how you doing? When I've gone out and helped him and I see that he's getting, he's hot, dude, I've got some cold water, some Gatorade. He's all set. But when he went that one day, when I went out to help him I had to fight to go help him. I had to argue that with my management going, this is more than likely heat related. He needs some assistance. And when I went out there and I saw how rough a shape he was in, and he had told me he had taken a sip of Gatorade and needless to say, it didn't hold it down. That had me worried. And the fact that they wouldn't let me I had to follow direct order. And so I took as much off of I can to get him back. And he was back to the office before I was, and he really appreciated that help. But watch out for each other. And I think that's going to be my hardest thing when I go regular, is that I am such a team player, and I'm kind of like that mom. I'm still one of the younger ones in my office, though I'm 45. I'm a mom of 3 people. I've always been that caretaker of everybody, and I still watch out for everybody in my office, and especially my newer RCAs, and especially if I know that they're not heat tolerant or they're not cold tolerant, or, they can't handle the extreme colds. You gotta help them out, and you have to watch out for each other. You have to be a team player. That's my biggest thing is, yes, we're out on these routes solo, but we're a team in that office. And if you can stay that team even a little bit, checking in on somebody that is not tolerating something or is having some issues, check in with them, whether it's heat, mental, whatever it is. You have to help each other out, whether it's lifting them up, whether it's making sure they've got fluids or any of that measure. I guess that's just kind of the nurturing person in me, and that's just how I am. But I'm not going to ramble anymore, guys. So,
you were doing such a fine job at rambling.
Thank you, Bill. I care about each and every one of you, whether you're in my office, you're in my old office. I still keep in touch with people in my former office. I keep in touch with all these guys. I mean, we talk every day. Bill and I talk on the phone a few times a week sometimes. James and I talk every day. Josh and I talk every day. It's in one form or another. I care about each and every one of you out there. And the only way that we can get to where we need to be is to care about each other and have each other's backs. So on that note, we are going to end tonight, and we should be back next week. I don't have anything going on. You guys have anything going on? No? Okay. We'll be back next week, and you all have a safe week. Stay cool out there. I know some temperatures are rising in the areas. Stay hydrated, and have a good week, everybody.